And then on top of this sort of tax scheme to reward the rich in this state, we also have Governor Cuomo, when they released the budget, went out and said, we are our job in government is to protect the charter movement. All right. Now, there was a piece in the New York Times today that, or I guess it was last night.
The one where he undercut de Blasio.
Where he undercut de Blasio, but just sort of coincidentally, they don't really sort of put it, I mean, they put it out there. You have to sort of read between the lines. It was New York Times. But it talks about how, now understand, in this city, you've got charters are one of the most powerful issue groups that are out there. They get millions of dollars of support, millions and millions of dollars of support from hedge funders. There's
all sorts of tax breaks that hedge funders get for investing in some of the, if you invest in like public property, there's a huge tax. I remember reading this, and I don't remember there's an enormous sort of tax break, as there always are. There's always, not to mention the money you could make if you, let's say, happen to invest in or own a testing company, or a variety of other needs that charter schools make sure to have. I mean, to think that that's not all tied into this is to fool yourself.
No, there's just a broader effort to essentially have publicly financed private schools where there is very little oversight, where it will function to decrease the power of teachers, period, and the teachers' unions. And all of this, all of a sudden, you have Governor Cuomo coming riding in to save the so-called charter movement from having 3 out of 17 schools that were applying for another charter. There are hundreds of charters in New York City applying for another co-location. In other words, kicking public schools out of their actual schools. And 3 of those, because 3 of them were rejected, Cuomo charges in, saves the day, basically gets this law passed in the budget that says that public schools have to make way for charter schools. If there's no room, then the public school system has to pay the rent of these charter schools. And all of it is just sort of coincidentally came with literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of support.
The only thing I don't get
for
here,
Governor Cuomo,
you may be able to tell me from being there, is how was it that de Blasio had to agree to this? How did he get sort of hamstrung into having to agree to this?
The state controls these laws. That's
that
basically it.
He
and
has
they
no
poured
way of standing up and saying no?
$5 million. $5 million into the city to wage this campaign. Not a political campaign. The only $5 million shows up for ads hammering de Blasio on this. Now, he can't, the bottom line is, he doesn't
But
have...
if in the end de Blasio doesn't have the decision-making power...
No. This came out of the State House. And a lot was riding for the debate for Mr. Cuomo, a number of his largest financial backers. Some of the biggest names on Wall Street.
Cuomo's big backers ripped into de Blasio with ads. Like, how de Blasio is not on the warpath against Cuomo at this point.
There's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can do. They basically provided for the universal pre-K funding. There's no dedicated stream, but that placates some of de Blasio's support in the State House up there, and that's the way it works. But, I mean, this is a function of a Democratic governor who's working at the behest of the 1% on just about every issue that has to deal with income inequality. He's fought against home rule for raising the minimum wage. He is cutting taxes for millionaires. He's cutting the estate taxes.
It's really amazing to me. I mean, New York, by any sort of, when they look at registration, when they look, at other things, New York's sort of one of the 5 or 6 most progressive states in the country. And on social issues, I grant you there's a difference, which do matter to people. So reproductive justice and gay marriage, these become economic issues, okay? So it does matter. But I will tell you right now, on anything and all these other issues, your governor right now is literally no different than the Republican governor in the state I'm sitting in.
Yeah.
Like, no different. I mean, he may be more conservative in some ways than John Kasich is. It's amazing. And the charter school stuff. I mean, look, this is a problem. I know it's a huge problem in New York. I mean, but it's a huge problem nationwide. This is here in Ohio. They own John Kasich, and this is one of the states where this huge scandal erupted. It was just about a year or two ago, where like they were exposed. The owner of the charter schools here, and it's one of these charter corporations, as it always is. They had teachers who weren't being paid. There were bed bugs in the school. Food vendors weren't shipping lunches, so kids weren't eating. I mean, it was utterly ridiculous, and our funds were supporting this. I mean, it's really sickening.